Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Marlow York and I'm a self-published author, and today I wanted to talk about wasteful things I no longer buy or use. Now this is one of those videos that's going into my zero waste, eco-friendly, minimalism, whatever type of stuff that I want to start talking a little bit about. And this is by no means an extensive list. This is just a selection of items that came to mind right away when I thought about things that I no longer use. And the reasoning behind some of these things either is because of a minimalism kind of thing, as in I don't want these things because of clutter, or these things are damaging? That's a little excessive. These things are in some way not great for the environment, or just really difficult to throw away, or something like that. So I'm just going to start reading down the list and explaining why I no longer use these things. The first one at the top of the list is shaving cream. I remember when I first started shaving, for some reason I assumed that shaving cream was just a necessary part of it, that it's something you had to buy in order to shave properly. And I remember my mom would buy it for me because I asked for it and I guess she used it, and then at some point I think she realized that even she doesn't need to use it because we have a thing called soap. So she stopped buying it for herself, and when I asked for more of it because I had run out, she said just use soap. And granted, unless you have a soap that suds up really well, sometimes it's not as good as shaving cream because, I don't know, it depends on the consistency of it. But all in all, I've found that I really don't need it at all. And also, the containers that they come in a lot of times aren't recyclable, so there's really no point in buying something that I don't really need because I have an alternative that I always have, soap, and it's something that's difficult to throw away when you're done. The next thing on my list is napkins, i.e. disposable paper napkins. Now, I don't not use napkins at all, ever, but I'm trying to find different alternatives to them, and I also use them very sparingly. Now, I've known some people who, regardless of what they're actually eating, they take like 20 napkins, and they will use them throughout the entire meal, and I just think it's kind of strange, because when I do use a napkin, I use one. Literally one. That's all I need. With the exception of, say, like, chicken wings, hot wings, like, there are a few foods that are really, really messy and it's hard to just use one napkin. But for the average meal, in some cases, I don't use a napkin at all. So if I'm in a restaurant, then yeah, I might take one because, I'm in public, so I don't want to, make a mess of myself and then have to, go walk over someplace else to get a napkin with, a mess on me. But when I'm at home, I usually just don't even bother to grab one. And recently I bought cloth napkins, like the same kind that you would see in a fancy restaurant. And I remember anytime I saw these in a restaurant, for some reason, I just felt like it was kind of gross. Like I just knew that someone else's lips had been on it. But in my own home, I don't really care. So the ones that I have, I believe, are 100% cotton, so they do tend to get a little bit misshapen after washing, but I'm in my own home. I'm not trying to impress anyone with my cloth napkins. I just want something that is reusable. This next one is a bit broad. I listed it as fashion, but I really need to elaborate. Obviously, I still buy and use clothing, but I don't do it very often. When I was a kid, I was probably a real pain in the ass to shop with because I'm very picky when it comes to clothing, and it was very rare for me to try something a little bit different. It was like I either like it or I hate it, and most of the time I didn't like it at all if there was even a slight hint that I kind of didn't like it. Not sure if that makes sense. So I get very overwhelmed in clothing stores because there's just so many options and so many colors and patterns, and a lot of times there's music, and it's just sensory overload for me. And a lot of times when I was a kid, I'd be out shopping with my mom, and after going to different stores and finding some things, not finding some things, after a while I just got exhausted by it, and then literally nothing was anything that I wanted. But occasionally I could be persuaded, or I would manage to find something I kind of liked, and every now and then I would try to branch out and buy something that really wasn't my typical style. But when you're young, I think it is okay to kind of experiment with your style and different types of clothing and realize what you like. Now, with all that said, I've pretty much become set in my ways when it comes to fashion. I wear jeans and a t-shirt every single day. And at this point in my life, I don't see any reason to try to branch out and buy I don't know, complicated fashion, stuff that I know is probably uncomfortable. So I'm not really adventurous with my wardrobe anymore. I know what I like, and if I need something that needs to be replaced, then I will replace it. But in most cases, I don't really need to buy clothes. Like, I think a lot of us have way more clothes than we actually wear, and that's the case for me, but it can be really difficult to part with them, and that's a different thing altogether. But what I mean is, I no longer buy stuff I absolutely know I don't like and won't wear and don't need. So I no longer buy high heels or any sort of uncomfortable shoes. I no longer buy heavily padded underwire bras because I don't like them. I don't buy dresses. I have a couple, but I don't really wear them except on very rare occasions. So there's no point in me shopping for a dress ever. What else don't I wear? I don't wear baseball hats very often, so I don't buy those. I don't buy skirts. I don't buy a lot of shorts. I pretty much just stick to stuff I know I absolutely like, and I don't buy things that are trendy or stuff that I know is going to be uncomfortable either physically or like mentally, as in I don't feel comfortable or confident wearing it. So that has not only saved me money and space in my wardrobe, it also cuts back on my stress, because to me, clothes shopping is very stressful. So I just don't bother doing it anymore. Well, at least very often. She says she's wearing a sweater that's like relatively new. The next thing on my list is dryer sheets. My husband still uses dryer sheets, so I do buy them when we need them, but honestly, I can't remember the last time I used dryer sheets. Instead, we use... Oh shit, the timer. Okay, let's just pick up where I left off. Instead of using dryer sheets, I use dryer balls. And the ones that I have are wool, but they also make like silicone ones if you're not okay with using animal products. And as far as I know, the dryer balls pretty much do the same thing that dryer sheets are supposed to. So the difference is that the balls, because they're, kind of like almost the size of a softball, they help to separate the clothing as it's tumbling around to help dry it. From what I've experienced, they're not as good at reducing static, but I don't care about static. I mean, static is not like a dangerous thing to have on your clothing. Like, it's not a big deal to me. Like, it's mildly annoying to be shocked by static, but it's not going to damage your clothing or really hurt you long term. And I also don't need my clothes to be heavily scented or fabric softened. I've never used fabric softeners, so at this point I don't really understand what the point of dryer sheets are when I have dryer balls that can pretty much do the same thing and they're not constantly being thrown away. The dryer balls can be reused over and over and over again for years until they like fall apart or something. Dryer sheets, I used to use them 2 or 3 times, honestly, before throwing them away, but it's still being thrown away. So it's wasteful and not great for the environment, and I don't need them. The next one on my list is mildly offensive to the gardener in me, and that is fake flowers and fake houseplants. They're made of plastic. Plastic is a non-renewable resource. Plastic takes a long time to decompose, and is probably one of the worst things for the environment in terms of materials that we could make things out of. And I guess, fake flowers, they last, obviously. You can put them in an office or a waiting room or in a wedding or something to that nature, but I don't think they're as impressive as real flowers. And of course, real flowers cost more, real plants cost more, but real plants are actually good. Like, we should be planting things, and it's nice to have plants in your home because they produce oxygen, which is good. And as someone who has been gardening her entire life and takes a lot of pride in gardening and making plants live, I think fake plants are just stupid. And I know there might be a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but people probably have some strong opinions about using fake flowers on graves, like in front of headstones. But I still think it's kind of dumb because, one, you're literally just polluting unless you're going to come back at some point and pick those up. And they just end up looking like shit after a while. They get covered in dust and dirt and rain, and there's no point. Like, if you really want to put flowers on a grave, just go out of your way to buy or pick some real flowers and put them on there. And sure, they're not going to look as pretty for very long, but neither is the fake plant. And the real flowers aren't going to harm the environment. They're just going to decompose naturally as they're supposed to. So fake flowers, I think, are just stupid. I think they're really dumb. This next one also is something I think people would have split opinions on. I don't really buy greeting cards. I've never been big into giving Christmas cards, and getting them is kind of nice. Getting birthday cards is nice, but it's not, I don't really see the point. I see the point. It's nice to get a card, especially nowadays when it's so much easier to just Facebook message someone or text them or whatever. So it is nice to get some snail mail that has a personalized message on it, but greeting cards in most cases are made of materials that can't be recycled, especially the more elaborate ones, like the ones that have googly eyes and glitter and the ones that make noises and stuff. And I used to think those were really fun to get and to give to people, but they're really just waste. And to be honest, how many of us take a greeting card that we've received, Christmas card, birthday card, whatever, and that we keep it for a long, long time? I've had a stack of them for years and years, and a lot of them don't even have like a personalized message or anything in them. It just is generic birthday card with happy birthday, love, so-and-so. And you appreciate it for maybe a week or so, and then it just either goes in the garbage or collects dust. So I don't see the point in using something that's so wasteful. And it's not really a big deal, and of course they do make cards that are recyclable, so if I were to buy someone Christmas cards, birthday cards, whatever, I would try to make it something that would be just recyclable paper, but I don't really see the point, and you can just as easily call someone and wish them a happy birthday and talk to them, or send them a text message or an email or whatever and make it very personal. You don't need to waste paper and trees and resources on something that possibly can't even be recycled. This next one kind of gives me frustration just thinking about using it, and that is plastic wrap. Plastic wrap is such a pain in the ass to use, let's be honest. Unless you can get the really high-end brand name, won't stick to itself plastic wrap, it's a pain in the ass to use. A lot of times it doesn't work very well, and it's plastic. It's literally just a sheet of plastic that you have to throw away. I don't think you can recycle plastic wrap at all. So why? Why use it? Instead, I just recently bought, and my grandma used to have these actually, reusable bowl covers. They look a lot like a shower cap that you would put on your head, but it's a shower cap for bowls. And the ones I have are cotton, and they were definitely more expensive than they should have been, if you ask me, but I had a really hard time finding the right size. I have a bowl that's massive, so I needed a really big one. So I ended up spending a stupid amount of money. It was probably like $30-something for a set of 3. We're not going there, but you can easily buy much cheaper ones that come in packs of different sizes, and you can reuse them again and again and again. All you have to do is just wash them off with water like you would any other cup, plate, whatever, and reuse them and just slip them over the bowl. They're a lot easier to use, they last a lot longer, and they're not as frustrating, and they work just as well. So stop using plastic wrap. Just save yourself frustration. The next one is something I'll admit I do use sometimes, but I don't go out of my way to buy it, and that is leather for fashion's sake. Now, I do have a leather belt. I know I have leather in some of my shoes, but I don't see the point of buying leather just for fashion's sake. It's definitely a durable material in a lot of cases, so I can understand why you would want it in your shoes, but it's one of those things that the animal lover in me does not agree that we should use. Now, I'm not a vegan, and I'm fine with eating animals and all that stuff. That whole thing is definitely a video for another day. However, I don't think that we should wear animal skin just because it's fashionable or something. And you could definitely disagree on this and continue to wear your fancy leather jackets, but for me, if I want something that looks like leather, I just buy fake leather. I don't buy leather because, for one thing, it's usually really expensive. I used to own a leather jacket, and I know it was easily, over $100, maybe $200, and it's not outrageous to see jackets that are several $100s or thousands of dollars just because they're real leather. Maybe they're like a specific animal. I don't know. I don't know anything about high-end expensive fashion because I grew up shopping at Walmart for all of my clothing, so that's not my area. One of my favorite zero waste sustainability YouTubers that I follow, Shelby, otherwise known as Shelbizzle on YouTube. I can definitely link her channel down below. She has a video, I don't remember if it's an unhaul video or what it was, but she did talk about why some vegans will still wear leather, and that is because they buy it secondhand. So if you're buying something outright from a store, you're creating demand for that product. So if you go out and buy a bunch of new leather jackets, then you're telling the store and suppliers that you want more leather jackets to be made. But if you're buying something secondhand, you're not creating a demand for it because that thing already exists and went through the system and someone else gave it away, so it's not creating a demand for it. But I still just don't like the idea of wearing leather for fashion's sake. The same goes for real fur. I would never go out to buy it. It's definitely not my style, but I would never wear real fur if I could because I don't think that's ethical to me. I could definitely film a video about how I feel about the ethics of animal products as someone who still eats animals but doesn't think they should be mistreated until they get to your dinner table. That's a weird phrase, but that's something for a different day. This next one should have been the first on the list because it's so obvious, and that is plastic water bottles. Growing up in my home, we weren't allowed to drink the water from the tap. I never knew specifically what was wrong with it, if anything, but we were always told that it just wasn't really safe to drink or wasn't ideal to drink it, so we never did. Instead, we would take soda bottles or like those really big Juicy Juice bottles, take them down to my grandma's house and fill them up with her water, and she had well water that was safe to drink. So I've never been the type of person to buy bottled water. I personally don't like the way it tastes. The only reason that I would drink it is if I was really thirsty, didn't have my reusable bottle with me, which I have pretty much on me all the time wherever I go. But if I didn't, or if I was someplace where that's all they had, then I would drink out of a plastic water bottle, but I don't like the taste, and it's wasteful. I mean, again, it's plastic. There's no point in using plastic and creating more demand for plastic when there's other alternatives. And like I was saying, the alternative to that is to have a reusable water bottle. I personally use Hydro Flask. There are definitely other insulated water bottle companies out there that are just as good, but I personally really like Hydro Flask, and it's a very easy alternative to plastic water bottles. Now, the last one I have on my list is, again, something that I still sort of use, but I don't really buy it regularly, and that is CDs and DVDs. Now, I'm a bit of an old-fashioned person. I like having physical copies of stuff, I should say. I would always prefer to use, for instance, books, actual paperback books, as opposed to like audiobooks or reading on an e-reader, because that's just my preference. I spend so much time on technology already between my day job, my writing career, and all this other stuff that I just don't like to be really close to technology when I don't need to be. And the thing is, when it comes to CDs and DVDs, it's multifold? Sure, let's say that. For one thing, they take up space, and a lot of the casing and stuff is obviously plastic and plastic components, and there's cellophane wrap usually on the outside of DVDs and CDs, so they're just kind of made of not great materials in the first place, and they take up space, like I just said, so it's more clutter and bulk when you could easily download music legally, so the artists get the proper recognition and the monies, or you could watch movies on Netflix and stuff like that. So I do definitely have CDs and DVDs, but honestly, I don't really use them that often because, well, at the moment, I don't have a CD player. I do want to get a radio with a CD player because I really miss having just everyday radio, to be honest. And I don't really watch my DVDs that much because the ones that I have, I've watched a million times. So occasionally I'll pick one up and just rewatch the movie that I really, really like, but I don't ever really feel the need to buy new ones unless I absolutely loved the movie. And I have done that. There is one particular movie I want to get on DVD eventually, but I just haven't needed to, and I actually think that it's on Netflix. It's Captain Fantastic. So if it was ever off of Netflix and I wanted to watch it again, then I would buy that DVD. But because there's so many online digital versions of movies and TV shows, and I don't really have a ton of time to watch movies and TV shows anyway, I just don't feel the need to buy these things. Alright, well I guess that was my entire list of wasteful things I don't use or buy anymore. Like I said, it wasn't an extensive list. I'm sure I could find more things that I don't really use or buy that often, but I could always save that for another video in the future if I feel so inclined. And I also do want to do a video about beginner zero waste swaps that I personally use. I did mention a few of them, such as using soap instead of shaving cream, or using dryer balls instead of dryer sheets, but I did want to do even more of those things that I didn't mention on this list, so depending on when I end up uploading this video, I'm not really sure off the top of my head. Maybe I'll have already filmed that one, or if not, that will be a project for the future. So was there anything on this list that you still use? And if you do, why is that? Just out of curiosity. Which of these things do you no longer buy or use yourself? Or was there anything that's not on this list that at some point you realized you don't need, so you no longer buy it because it's wasteful or bulky or whatever reason? Let me know below in the comments, and yeah, we can start a little discussion down there because I'm always interested in finding other zero waste swaps or more eco-friendly products. If you'd like to keep up with me on other social media, I'll leave all my links below in the description. If you'd like to buy my self-published novels, I'll also leave those below in the description. So until next time, see ya!